Hi, everybody, it's Lisa, Twyla's mom, and today is Monday, January 23rd, and it is question of the week. Yes, it is. Now, the last question we had was about chores around the house, and I got a lot of people responded, and everything like that. It was really cool. But this week's question isn't quite as fun. I think it's going to be more of me complaining about stuff than anything. But my question of the week is, do you guys feel like things just do not last anymore? I mean, cars, they don't last. Appliances, they just don't last. Things are always breaking down. I mean, half the time your car breaks down before you even get it paid for. So that is my question of the week. Do you guys feel like things in the past, let's say 10 years? In the past 10 years, have you noticed that things, major things, do not last anymore? And I'm talking about appliances, I'm talking about vehicles, things that we spend a good amount of money on. Do you feel like they just do not last like they used to? People my age, which I'm in my 50s, barely in my 50s, let me tell you. I'm not in the middle and I'm not at the end of the 50s. I'm just over the edge. You can probably relate to me. For instance, when my oldest son, who is 33 years old, was 1 year old, I bought my first washer. I'd never owned a washer before because everywhere that I had lived before that time, they were provided to me. We either lived in an apartment building that had a laundry room, we lived in a house that had those provided to us. But when he was a year old, we moved on base. My ex-husband, not the husband I have at the moment, but my ex-husband was a Marine. And we moved on base. Well, we lived in California, and you had the option of either a washer or a dryer, or a stackable one. Well, I didn't really want the stackable ones. But we had a clothesline. And, I was like, well, let's get the washer. Because we lived in California. We didn't get a whole lot of bad weather. And if we did, and we were desperate for some clothing, I could always just hang them up to dry on the shower rod. At any rate, that was a long story to explain why I bought a washer. Anyway, this washer, which was 32 years ago, lasted until my son was 14 years old. It was just a basic Sears Kenmore washer. It probably cost us between $200 and $300, which was a lot of money to, my husband wasn't high up in rank or anything like that. We probably bought it with our income tax refund, It was a lot of money back then. But that little washer, I'll tell you what, it went through my 3 oldest boys when they were little. They all wore cloth diapers. They were little boys. They were dirty all the time. Then they were preteens and, grade school kids, It lasted through me and my husband. It was moved countless times to different houses, across the country and everything else. It was moved countless times. And my son was 14 years old before it finally just had enough. But I have lived in this house here for 12 years, and I've went through three washers. Three washers, two dryers, two stoves, two dishwashers. Yeah, I mean, and it used to be, I remember my mom had an issue with her dryer one time, and I remember my dad was able to fix it. You just really can't even fix things these days. I mean, they've made it to the point where when they break down, they just break down. Um, the washer that I picked out when we moved into this house, I picked out one of the front loaders, and the one I picked out was not a cheap one. At the time, it was like $1,800. It was not a cheap washer. I picked out all the bells and whistles, and I knew that's what I wanted. We saved the money for it, and that's the washer I wanted. Now, in order to get that fancy pantsy washer, I had to get just a basic fridge. But, I was like, I don't care about that. I want the fancy washer. So that's what we got. I didn't even own that washer for 5 years. Mm-mm. It stopped agitating. It started the drum quit going around. It would fill up and it would drain, but it wouldn't agitate. So I called the repairman, and said, hey, come look at my washer. And he did. And he's looking at it. He goes, well, you need a new computer panel, which is going to cost you $600, because then, of course, $600, the part and the labor to do it. I'm like, $600? I'm like, are you crazy? So I told him no. I said, I'll just get a new washer. I said, I can go and find a basic washer and for $400 or $500. He's like, well, okay. He goes, I would suggest you do that too, because he said, it's $600. It's not worth it unless you're just in love with this 5-year-old washer. And it's like, well, yeah, I love my washer, but, I'm not going to do it. So, yeah, that's a story of a washer. Now, my dryer, I had bought the matching front-loading dryer. Now, that dryer did last me. I will say, that dryer lasted me for almost 11 years. I just had to replace my dryer during the summer. It was during the summer that dryer finally went out, So that wasn't too awful bad. I didn't feel quite so bad. And it was almost as expensive as the washer, but I'd gotten the set. So, it was like, okay, fine. The dishwasher, can't remember what happened to it. Gosh, I can't remember. At any rate, we had to replace the dishwasher. But in all honesty, that was the dishwasher that was in the house when we moved in. Yeah, we had no other appliances, but we did have a dishwasher. And I think that's because it was a built-in, so. The stove, I got talked into buying the glass top stoves. I hated it. That thing was a booger to clean. Now, it did last for 8 years, 9 years, yeah. But it cracked. Yeah, the top of it just cracked all by itself. Don't know how it happened. Nothing dropped down there or anything. We heard a loud pop, went to investigate, and it's got a crack on it. It's like, what? Yeah. So, yeah, that didn't last as long as it should have. And it was, those aren't cheap, They weren't cheap back then. They're not cheap now. But I'll tell you what, I did go and get a cheap electric stove. I think it cost me like $300, not very much to replace it. And the guy at the store, he's like, are you sure this is the one that we usually give to people to put in apartments? I said, yeah, because I don't like to cook anyway. Yeah, if I like to cook and all that business, I'd go ahead and buy that fancy one you got over there. But no, this one's fine. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, do you guys feel the same way I do, that nothing lasts as long as it used to? Um, it's just frustrating. I don't know why, but it is. It is just so frustrating. And when I look back at my parents, for instance, cars, my parents drove their cars until, oh my gosh, they had Mavericks when I was real young. And they did not replace those until us kids outgrew it, to where it was just to the point a family of five no longer fit in the back seat of that Maverick, the family car. My dad, now my dad had his Maverick. Oh my gosh. I think, well, we moved onto the farm, and he did go ahead and get rid of the Maverick so he could get his truck. Yeah, he needed a truck and we didn't grow up on a big farm, but, it was he needed to haul hay and things like that. So he did get rid of his Maverick at that time. But my mom still kept hers, and it was considered the family car. In fact, it was the first car I learned how to drive. I learned how to drive her Maverick. And when us kids, it was just unbearable for teenagers to be in the back seat and take any kind of family trip. That's when they finally traded it in. But I don't recall my parents ever having to drive a loaner car because their car broke down. I don't ever remember that. I don't remember them having their car in the shop for more than, something that only took a couple hours to fix, and it was nothing major. So it's like, yeah, what is it with stuff today? Nothing lasts. So that is question of the week. Do you guys feel like we are living like in a disposable world these days? Nothing seems to last. Yeah. So let me know, okay? Give me, don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and leave me a comment below. Do you guys agree with me or not? I'll talk to you later. Bye.